Francis Bacon gave us some valuable advice when he said, "Money is a good servant, but a bad master." In beginning of our chase for money, we should also seek wisdom as well. Otherwise, the greedy accumulation of wealth could corrupt our values and rob us of our life. Many people consider it horrid that earning money is not taught in any schools anywhere in the world, even though our world revolves around the use of money. The common response to this kind of idea is, why should we teach earning money as a subject in school? Everyone already understands how to earn money. The sad reality is that 97% of people die without ever learning how to earn money. Their lack of knowledge is passed along to their kids and grandkids. Consequently, the 3% of people who do understand how to gain wealth pass their understanding onto their kids. It is time for the 97% to wake up. If you're a part of this group, you should know that you can learn how to earn money, all the money you want, and it is no more difficult than learning how to drive an automobile. There are people alive today who have learned how to send a rocket to the moon, but have not learned how to become wealthy. This is because being competent at one thing, regardless of what it is, does not mean that you are competent at other things. We aren't going to talk about interest rates, investments, stocks, or bonds. This lesson is about the cause of wealth. George Bernard Shaw was a political activist in the 1800s who spoke about wealth. He made a couple of statements that have caused controversy. One was, "It is the duty of every person to be rich," and the second was, "It is a sin to be poor." What is your immediate reaction to these statements? Most people have a very negative reaction, but you must admit these are two very powerful statements. We must understand them if we're interested in earning money. Before we classify Shaw and his statements as ridiculous, perhaps we should learn more about him. George Bernard Shaw was born in Ireland in 1856, but he eventually moved to England when he was 20 and lived the majority of his life there. He was a dramatist, a music critic, and an essayist. Shaw became very successful in these fields. He was, in fact, one of the most important literary figures of the last century, even winning the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1925. You could easily assume that a person making those statements had little concern for the poor. However, if you take another glance at his life, you will find that George Bernard Shaw was a strong supporter of the underdog. He was an early supporter of women's rights, and he attempted to bring out political and economic change in favor of the poor through his plays. Knowing these things about the author's life, let's reread those two statements and attempt to understand them again, starting with, "It is the duty of every person to be rich." To properly understand what Shaw was saying, you must have an open mind, remain objective, and have some understanding of the natural law of the universe. The laws that I'm referring to are the ones many call the divine laws. The first of these laws states that everything is moving. Absolutely nothing rests. You are either moving ahead in life or you're moving backwards. It's growth or death, create or disintegrate. Essentially, you're becoming richer or poorer. Then the second law, which is often called the karmic law, regards sowing and reaping, cause and effect, action and reaction. It's incredibly important to understand how this law works. The thoughts, feelings, and actions that you express in life are the seeds that you sow. The conditions, circumstances, consequences, or rewards that come into your life are the harvest you reap from the seeds that you sow. Hold on to these ideas for a moment while we investigate the word sin and the word money. Sin is defined as a transgression of the law. Violating the law is a sin, and the natural punishment for sin is death. That does not mean your heart will stop beating, but it does mean that you will go backwards. Remember the first law which stated that you will either be creating or disintegrating? Well, when you attempt to get without giving, you're trying to reap the harvest without sowing the seed. It simply will not work. That fits into the definition of sin, a transgression. Now let's go back to talking about money. What is it? Simply put, money is a reward you receive for the service you provide. The more valuable the service, the higher the reward. Attempting to get money without providing service is a violation of the natural order of things. Shaw wholeheartedly believed that you and I were put here on the planet to serve one another. Discovering ways we can be of greater service will not only enable us to grow intellectually and spiritually, but we shall be rewarded through currency. It is our duty to serve, and money is the product of that. If a person has received their money in a manner that goes against the law of nature, Don't think for a second that they are on the right track. They must pay the price. You reap what you sow. You might see the money they have and the things money will buy, yet never see the true price they pay. But they will pay it. That is how the universe works. Every thinking person will agree that in the light of the law, what Shaw said is correct. But that is where the problem begins for most people. They do not think. And if a person is not thinking, Shaw's statements would appear cruel, even ridiculous. Personally, I believe Shaw made those statements the way he did to provoke people to consider why on earth he would say those things. The Apostle Matthew from the Bible did essentially the same thing 1900 years before Shaw. Matthew stated, "To him who has, much shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But for him who does not have, even that which he has shall be taken away." Matthew 25:29. At first glance, that doesn't sound very fair. Matthew is basically saying that the rich will get richer and the poor poorer. People who believe that this is unfair are people who view abundance as something that is doled out, when in reality, Matthew is saying you attract what you believe you already have. Now let's get serious. How much money do you really want? Remember Val Vanderwal's statement? Spirit awaits direction from the soul. Spirit requires specific instructions. Saying, "I want more just because I do," is not good enough. $5 is technically more, but how much more is the real question. Decide on a figure, but be specific. You should want the exact amount of money you need to provide the things you want and to live the way you choose to live. Now, you should not seriously want more money than you are physically capable of earning, because you still must work for it. FG plus E equals I. This is the formula you can use to calculate your goals. The FG represents financial goals. The E represents expenses. The I represents income. So you set your financial goals, you add your expenses to that, and then calculate the exact figure that you want to earn over time. Arriving at answers to some of these questions will probably take time. You're not going to answer them in 5 minutes if you answer them properly and with care. When you seriously consider the positive impact this formula can have on your life, you will realize that it certainly deserves whatever time it takes. To figure out your financial goals, ask yourself, how much money do you want to have in 1 year? There are only 2 real ways to earn money. One is people at work, and the other is money at work. You should be using both. If you're wanting to be financially independent, what you're actually saying is, I want to have enough money working for me to provide the income I will require to live the way I choose to live. However, the most important consideration about your daily work is to love what you do. The amount of money you earn is truly not the most important consideration at the end of the day. The individuals who live the most fulfilled lives are those who enjoy the work that they do. That, my friend, is the #1 key factor in living the best life. The idea that you must slave away, working harder or for longer hours, away from your family to earn money is a myth. It is a concept that is believed and perpetuated by people who are genuinely very tired or without money. In reality, most very wealthy people do not work very hard. They generally love what they do, and they have income coming to them from many sources. Once you've determined how much money you want to earn, write this exact amount on a sheet of paper in large figures. Look at the number and tell yourself over and over again, that amount of money is an effect. It represents a reward I want to receive. What service can I render that would deserve that reward? You can take the total figure and divide it into multiple parts for each source of income you'd like to include. Each source of income represents a separate reward that you would receive for a service you would provide. Work on it one at a time, taking it all day by day. What you're actually doing is thinking of different ways you can be of service to others, just as Shaw says. When you understand these basic laws of money, you will suddenly understand that the only time you must think about money is when you're deciding how much you want to acquire. From this point on, your entire focus intellectually, emotionally, and physically must be directed towards providing a great service to others. Think of how you can do this more effectively. Think of how you can improve on the quality and the quantity of services that you are providing. Always remember, money is the ultimate servant. The more money you earn, the more you can help others.